Afternoon, Outlaws, on this cold, wintry day in Texas. We're going to continue our series on cooking, and today we're going to talk about doing pork loin ribs. A lot of people have asked how to do ribs when they don't have a smoker or not the ability to. So what I'm going to do is teach you how to make restaurant quality ribs with just an oven and a grill. Alright, so we'll be back in a little bit and talk about how to do that. Alright guys, we're back. And the first thing we're going to do is to make these restaurant quality ribs is to get rid of this membrane that's here. A lot of your guys that are Memphis and Maine champions and your Jack Daniels know that the best way to have tender ribs, and these are pork loin ribs, is to take this membrane off. That way the rub gets in, and also you're not sitting here trying to chew on something kind of chewy. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a paring knife, and what I've already done is started kind of going underneath here, getting a hold of the skin to where it's just this top layer. Don't go below this, because if you do, you'll be into the rib, and you don't want to do that. And you'll know the difference. So what you're going to do is take a wet paper towel, and this is another secret. This right here will help you keep hold of this membrane, and you won't lose it. So hopefully the first time out, I can get this in here. And as you can tell, look at it. It comes right off, okay? And so I'm going to come like that. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to get this other part, and I'm going to try and keep this in one piece until this whole thing comes just like this, all the way off, as you can see. Excellent. All right, I got two more to do, and I'll be back in a minute. Yeah. All right, Outlaws, we're back, and the next part of this, after I've taken the membrane off the ribs, is to apply the rub. These are the three rubs that I'm going to be putting. I like to change my ribs up and do one flavor for each one of them, and then also the barbecue. This is John Henry's, good old East Texas boy. I actually did barbecue at the White House on several occasions. This is my go-to. It's a pecan rub. He's got a good online site if you want to order some. And we're debuting this, which is a Hawaiian rib rub, and I got some wonderful Hawaiian barbecue sauce here I'm going to try on that. And then today, a friend of mine, where I'm very fortunate to have an excellent selection of barbecue supplies and wood, cherry wood, orange wood, you name it. Good friend of mine, Bobby Linden, but he's asked me to try this. It's called Sweet Rub of Mine, which is basically, it's a barbecue team. As you can see, they won the World Memphis in May, which is one of the championships of barbecue, and that was done in 2009, and they also won 2013. So we're going to try some of this today and see what we think. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we apply a liberal amount of rub. Never hesitate to put enough, because you want this thing to be nice and crust, give you good flavor. So as you can see, what we're going to do, run our hand like this, make sure every single bit of this gets covered like this. All right, as you can see, I'm going to take my hand just like this. We're going to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And we're going to keep going. Now, this may seem like a lot, but when you have a nice piece of meat like this, you're going to need a lot of rub on there, because you want it to soak through and give it that wonderful flavor. It's going to be sitting overnight, and I'm going to be talking about how to wrap that here in a minute with the help of my wife, Denise. So I'm going to take that. Now, the next part of this is to actually take your hand. They call it a rub because they want you to actually rub it in here. They want to make sure you get that in every crevice, make sure that sticks in there really nice, and that's what we're going to do. So as you can see, I'm taking my hand like that. I'm going to put it through here, make sure that's in there. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to flip this thing. So I'm going to flip this. Now, my hands are dirty, so I'm not really going to touch this. So I'm going to go wash my hands real quick, and we're going to be right back. All right, we're going to take the other side of this and do the same thing on this side. We're going to apply it liberally. Make sure that we get every bit of this is covered, because the more the merrier, I always say. Especially with ribs. So as you can tell, we're going to cover this. Just go right along here. I'm going to run my hand right here, make sure we get the sides on that real nice and pretty. And I'm going to take my hand just like this. Take no time. We're going to go all the way through. And again, just like I said before, we call it a rub because they want you to rub it in. Make sure this gets in here in a nice flavor. And this thing's going to be wonderful tomorrow. It's going to make it tender. It's going to give an excellent flavor. And I have a feeling since they won the Memphis in May, this is probably be an excellent rub for us to try. All right, Outlaws, we'll go to the next step, and I'll be back here in a minute. All right, Outlaws, the next step of this is to make restaurant quality ribs without a smoker. The most important part is we're going to wrap this in restaurant quality clear wrap, which is going to help steam this. So my wife's going to do this. She's real good with this, and that is she's going to double wrap it. So the first thing is to make sure that you do not have any space in between there. You want to make sure that that's tightly wrapped, because that's going to matter. You want to make sure there's no openings so that steams, and what that's going to do is make it extremely tender. As you can see, we're just going to wrap it like so. Once over, like that. And then we're going to take another piece and we're going to wrap it again. Alright, so we'll be back for the next step. Alright, we've wrapped it once, and now she's going to wrap it a second time. And again, you want to, this is very important, because in order to make sure that it steams properly and makes it nice and tender in that oven for the first phase of the cooking process, you want to make sure that you've done this correctly. Alright, so make sure you do that and wrap this twice. Alright, as you can see, we're going to make sure it's nice and tight, flipping that over, and then flipping it over as such. Alright guys, next part of making these pork loin ribs is we're going to take the bone side and put it down. Now, what we're going to do is we're not going to put it in the center, we're going to put it more to the left, because what we're going to do is we're going to make a pocket. Alright, so the first part of it is we're going to lift the bottom side up, make sure it's nice and tight. You'll appreciate this, because you do not want this leaking in your oven when you put this on the cookie sheet. I know this from experience. So we're going to fold one side in, as you can tell. We're going to take the other side, make sure it's nice, the pocket's nice and tight. We're going to fold it over such as that, just like a letter. We're going to crimp it down, and then we're going to fold it over, and then fold it up just like that. Now that is going to keep it out of your oven and make sure that it keeps the steam in. Okay? All right. We'll be back for the next step. Welcome back, Outlaws. As you can see, we've got them all wrapped and ready to go. And what I've done is I've placed them on a nice thin cookie sheet. The thinner the better. Place a smaller one in the middle and the two on the outside. What we're going to do is let this sit overnight. But a nice little touch I want to tell you about is when you want to make sure you know what kind of rub that you've put on there, what you can do is list it like we have here. It's my Texas pecan rib, and then you can bake that right in there and it won't hurt a thing. Alright, so we're going to let this sit overnight in the refrigerator, so I'll see you guys in the morning. Alright, Outlaws, it's been overnight since we put these wonderful pork loin ribs in the refrigerator. I just took them out. I've preheated the oven for 300 degrees, and I'm going to be setting these in here for the next 2.5 hours, so it'll be slow and low. We'll put those in there just like that and get it started, and then I'll see you guys in about 2.5 hours. Alright, it's been 2.5 hours. We're going to go ahead and take this out and let it cool. Be real careful here. Got my trivets already set up, so I'm going to take this. Alright, so we're going to let this rest for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, I took the ribs out of the oven on the cookie sheet and allowed them to cool for about 5 to 6 minutes until they were cool enough where I could transfer the ribs to my cutting board. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've opened it up. I took my sharp knife, and I like worst off at best as far as I'm concerned, and I slid open the plastic wrap. Now, I want you to know this, you need to be very careful when you're doing this because the steam can be very hot, so that's why you need to allow it to cool for a little bit. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to let it to rest in its juices for a few minutes, and the other reason for this is if I try to pick this up now and take it out and put it on the grill, which is where we're heading, it would fall apart. So what we're going to do is let it rest and get a little firm. Okay, so we'll be back in a few minutes. I'm fixing to go work on the fire. Alright, we're in the final phase of fixing these pork loin ribs. The first thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to put it on the fire. This is applewood, which has a nice smoky flavor to it. So we're going to heat, starting with the bone side down first. And we're going to wait until it has a nice bubble. So that's going to be about a couple of minutes. So we'll be back in just a second. We're back and we're just going to turn this over and we'll show you what we're going to be looking for. before we go on, I just want to make sure this is bubbling up, as you can tell, just like that. That's letting you know it is time to flip it. So we're going to flip it over and let it sit for another 2 minutes. And then we're going to start applying the sauce. All right, it's time to flip it over. Start applying some sauce. So we're going to flip it over just like that. It's got that nice color to it. And we're going to start applying some sauce. And what I'm using today is going to be one of my ribs. It's going to be Arthur Bryant's. Now, Arthur Bryant's been around a long time, since Harry Truman, premier barbecue master of the world, as far as I'm concerned, out of Kansas City. One of the oldest restaurants doing this. So we're going to apply that, and then we're going to do that a couple more times, and these babies are going to be ready. Place them a couple more times. I'm fixing to turn this over, and I always like to finish in the very end and get a little bit more on there right as I pull them. So that's what I'm going to do now at the very end. Adds a nice color to it, and make sure you get that on there, and it will, as it's resting, it'll get nice and warm, and it's going to look just absolutely beautiful on that plate. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull this off and get ready to go inside and finish cutting it. All right, we'll see you guys in a few minutes. All right, Outlaws, we finished up with our pork loin ribs. Remember, we had the Sweet Rub of Mine, which won the Memphis in May 2009-2013, and I finished it off with some Arthur Bryant out of Kansas City. It's excellent sauce, not sweet, but savory. We also have the John Henry Hawaiian Rub and the Sweet Baby Ray Hawaiian Barbecue Sauce in the center. Then we have my Sweet Pecan Dust from John Henry's again, and finished up with a wonderful apricot barbecue sauce. So we are about ready to eat. I went ahead and I cut one off, and I wanted to show you how wonderful this looks. And we're going to go ahead and get a bite of this and see how this tastes. Fantastic. All right, guys. All right, guys, if you like this recipe and would like to more and share with others that have the same desire to learn how to cook, come join us on Culinary Outlaws on Facebook. We have over 1,000 members. Until then, we'll see you next time.